one. Don't mind the dog in the background. Dog has requested to stay in this room, and I've given him one condition, and that is to be quiet. So if he fails that test, he's going to get booted. In the meantime, hey, sit. Oh, just does his own thing. Sit down. Drop. Good dog. All right. Looking at some comments, looks like we've only got Matt K183 and Stephen to say hello to at this stage. So hello to you both, and Stephen says he will be joining later. So not much has changed since last week. I had a very lengthy update last week. The only thing that I have to say this week is that if you watched the stream last week, you will know that I managed to accidentally dox myself, which is reveal my home address live to everyone, which was not my proudest moment, but it happened. I was going to the maps to try and find where the Wollongong to Moss Vale line branched off, and by clicking on the maps, dog, are you being quiet? He keeps being noisy. In the process, I clicked on the maps, and Tahoe was centred right on my home address with a thing saying, "Here you are." So, So what I've ended up doing with that is I've had to blur it through YouTube Studio, it was less painful than I thought it would be. Enzo? Shh, be quiet. Nope, all right. Let's kick him out. Let's go. Good dog. All right, that was relatively quick. Expected that to be a bit more difficult. Anyway, so I've blurred it and is currently in processing. I only got around to actually clicking the buttons a couple of hours ago, so I don't know when it will be ready, whenever YouTube decides. I expect by tomorrow evening sometime, so I will, if you're on YouTube tomorrow night and you want to rewatch the stream, or you missed it, or you missed parts of it, then you should be able to see it tomorrow night, I would say. But it's out of my control at the moment. Anyway, while I've been rabbiting away, we've got Bulletproof Designs, hello. Trains of Melbourne, hello. And Albert as well, hello Albert. Okay, let's switch over to screen capture. While I think of it, we're still running on pure battery power, and I've got one more battery left. This is my thing of 5 batteries, and you can see I've got them all numbered. Oh, yeah, there we go, that's focused. You can see I've numbered them 1 to 5, with 4 being inside the camera at the moment. So this holder only holds 4 batteries, obviously. But the system that I've got for keeping track of which one's charged and which one's not is that I always start with battery number 1, and when battery number 1 is empty, I will swap it out with battery number 2. And so I always know that if I look through here and I can see, okay, well, battery 1 is in here, so battery 1 must be dead, and batteries 2 and 3 are in here, but 4 is not. So I know that 4 is currently in the camera, and I know that 1, 2 and 3 are not charged, but 5 is charged because I always go in sequence. So random little fact about how I keep track of 5 batteries. Do I need 5 batteries? It comes in handy sometimes. And I got them cheap, so I'll take it. Anyway, we're running on battery power tonight, not hardwired into power, which I would typically do, but can't because stuff. It's actually entirely possible, but I didn't get the time to rig it up. I mean, hello, my computer is running off power, so, and it can't. The iMac does not have a battery, so, well, actually, a little bit of trivia for you. It does have a battery, but not for the purposes of powering the computer. It's just a little, I guess you could call it a watch battery. I mean, that's what it does. It's just to help it remember the time if it's disconnected from the main power source. Anyway, I've done enough rabbiting on, haven't I? So this is where we left off last time, which was at the very end of the Cockatoo run at Central, and we progressed to trams, obviously. And is this right outside Central? I have a feeling it's not, although I'm not sure where it would be. I forget. If anyone recognises, I mean, that would be, I guess, the Great Southern Hotel. So which station is that nearest to? Because I remember I'd just come out of a station, but I don't think it was Central. It was more these, oh, that's not a bad photo. These tram photos were largely opportunistic. I wasn't intending on photographing trams this night, but then I'm not too far away from Central, am I? But then, I just sort of popped out and started photographing them. So, yes, in Melbourne, we're obviously famous for having trams, but that's one thing that you will not see in Melbourne, but you do see in Sydney, is 2 trams coupled together in passenger service. You do see, on the odd occasion, 2 trams coupled in Melbourne, but it will only be because one of them is broken down. But yeah, these are Citadis trams, which if you're familiar with your Melbourne trams will also ring a bell, because our C-class trams, both the C1s and the C2s, are Citadis, but they look nothing like these, and so you'll be thinking, so what am I missing? and you're missing that these are much newer. Duh. But no, so the ones we've got in Melbourne are the second generation Citadus, and these are the fifth generation Citadus from Alstom. That's who builds the tram. That's the model. Citadus is the model of tram. And these will be a likely contender for the fifth generation specifically, will be a likely contender for our F-class trams, our upcoming F-class trams. Although, given that, oh, there we are, we're at Haymarket, so yeah, we are in the Essential. Oh, I thought we were. Just check this. No. What was I saying? I've gone blank. Citadus. Oh yeah, E-Class. The E-Class they've had issues which are to do with the design, and that is that they are too long for the old Melbourne tram depots, and they also draw too much power for the old Melbourne electrification system. So what I was meaning to say with all that is that these are the Citadus 503s, I think. Yeah, because the 3 means that they've got 5 segments, right? If it was a 502, it would be a 3-segment version. You can, when different cities and whatever order a tram from Alstom or whoever, you can somewhat configure how many segments it has. So our C1 trams, those are 202s. So there's 202, as in 2 second generation, 02, as in we've got 3 segments. Can be a little confusing. But then the C2 class trams are Citadus 203s. In other words, they've got 5 segments, so same or similar length to these in the single unit in Sydney, which is a 503, Citadus 503. 5 is in 5th generation and 03 is in, it's got 5 segments. And I believe in Bordeaux, I could be getting that wrong, there's 7-segment trams, 7-segment Citadus trams. So, there you go. Me rambling on about Citadus trams. Who knew there was so much to say? Sydney is also not unique in the world, but unique in Australia in that the trams can operate with either pantographs or third rail, which I don't think we'll see in this set of tram photos, but there's another set of tram photos that I'll show you that. It's not a battery system like in Newcastle, or I think Newcastle, the trams are the supercapacitors, which are slightly different to batteries. They act in a different manner. And another just interesting thing while we've still got tram. Oh, so here we go. Here's the third rail that you can see. And it's quite an innovative system that has been created by Alstom. So we're now at Town Hall. I remember that now. which is where they switch from overhead wires to third rail. And so what's the problem that you have with third rail is electrocution. Just a minor thing, people getting electrocuted. If this third rail was always live, then you'd have a lot of potential for electrification, because electricity needs to flow in a circuit. It always needs to be connected to positive and to negative. And so the overhead wires are generally the positive, and the rails themselves are the negative, right? So there's no electricity flowing sort of between the rails, but between the two outer rails, I should say, unless there is a tram sort of over the top. But even then, there's no sort of electrical difference between the two, so there's no way that you can get electrocuted, even if electricity is directly flowing through one of the rails. They're both 0 volts essentially. But if you somehow got a voltmeter between the rail and the overhead, then you would find, how many volts in Sydney? I think it might be 800 volts in Sydney. It's 600 in Melbourne. With the newer trams, not the old Sydney trams, but they were 600. But I have a feeling it's 800. I could be wrong. Someone tell me if I'm wrong. So what I was saying was, so if the third rail was live all the time, you would just have to complete the circuit in some manner between the centre rail and one of the outer rails in order to get an electric shock. So that's obviously not a good thing. So is in an area that is so populated, people walking all over the tracks and stuff. So what Alstom have done to get around that is that you see how there's these segments here, right? You've got these, I'll say the bumpy section, then a smooth section, then a bumpy section, and a smooth section. So that it's really, you can sort of see the brake just there. That's the true brake between two segments. I'm pretty sure, at least. And so you've got this segment which is a certain length. Now the tram will pick up power from one of those sections at a time, and it can only pick up power from that section when the tram is directly on top of it. I don't know the details of how it works that out, but it's very reliable. It would have to be. And yeah, it activates, it energises the third rail while the tram's on top of it, so there's no way that a person can walk on top of it and energise it. So a little bit of a safety feature. We're back at Central by the looks of things, obviously. It's an XPT and a VSET over on the other platform. And I'm back at Town Hall. That was an interesting trip to Central, was it? Did I really just... What's the time on these photos? So 9 p.m. and 9:40. So I spent a bunch of time at Central, and what's the date? 30th. What day would that have been? I think that's a Monday. Hang on, I came up on the 28th, which was a Friday. So 30th would be a Sunday. The 28th I came up, which was a Friday. Yeah. So I don't know why I was at Central. Anyway, probably... No, I got no idea. I was separated from my friends this night for one reason or another, but then I can't remember. I think that would have been because they had run off to Maitland, in which case I wouldn't be meeting them because they were getting back at like 1 a.m. or something. So, I don't know. All right, so we're here at the Maritime Museum, and I think that's a good place to stop for some comments. Hang on. Matthew James says, my room looks very empty. Yes, it is very empty, and it was explained on the last live stream. That will be back up tonight or tomorrow, or yeah. Trains to Melbourne says, do you still upload on Flickr? Look, Flickr was never... I never put any effort into posting there. Whatever I do have on Flickr, I've put up there for another reason. Like I've wanted to share it with somebody or for some reason or whatever. So yes and no, I guess is the answer. I wouldn't rule out putting something more up there, but I couldn't tell you what or when. Albert says, thank you for getting back in the fortnightly sync. Yes, I got out of sync with what I described as out of phase. I was out of phase with my streaming week versus not streaming week. Last week was technically a not streaming week, but then I streamed, so I was out of phase, and so that's why we're doing another one tonight. And yes, I figured out that we were just outside of Central. And yeah, Matt is talking about trams coupling. Yeah, and that's right. It's not in... Yeah, well, actually you could... So, yeah, that's right. In Sydney, the trams are acting as multiple units together, whereas in Melbourne, if you ever see two trams coupled together, one of them is not powered. But in Sydney, they're both powered. Okay. So, Albert... Okay, so Albert's saying that they call them the XO5 trams in Sydney, and I realised then that I just got my numbering scheme stuffed up. Oh my god. So remember how I was saying that, I described the, hang on, let me go back. Let's get a tram photo up. Whoops, that's... So I described these as the I described them as the 503 3s. What I should have been describing them as 305s. So I just, yeah. So they're called X05s because, yeah, sorry. The 05 is the 5th generation, and the X in X05, that's just an Alstom terminology. So X05 just means any 5th generation Citters tram, and then you can change out the X to be a 2. I don't think there is a 1. You can change them to 2, 3, or 4, which means 3, 5, or 7 segment. Okay, I'm pretty sure. I think I've got my terminology right that time around, but top of head is a little bit, you're always bound to make a little mistakes here and there. And yeah, we'll talk about the Newcastle tram a little bit further into the stream because I've got photos of that. And Albert says it is 750 volts. I knew it was something around that. Yeah, I'm slightly surprised. I'm not really up to date with my modern tram infrastructure knowledge, I guess. I'm somewhat familiar with Melbourne's infrastructure and whatnot, but since Sydney got rid of their tram system entirely, and then they've sort of just built up bits and pieces with new stuff, it's interesting that looking at sort of what choices that they've made. So in railways, a modern electrification system would be running on 25 kilovolts AC. And I did a whole video explaining electrics, a whole live stream explaining electrical concepts in railways, and part of that discussion was why higher voltage is better for transmission purposes. The really short version is that basically you lose less power, and so you need less substations, and it ends up being cheaper. So that's why I'm slightly surprised that Sydney and I guess elsewhere in the world hasn't chosen to move to even higher voltages than 750 DC. The motors on the trams run off AC power, although that's a little unfair because they are variable voltage, variable frequency, which is its own thing, and I went into a little bit more detail about that in the electrics stream again. If you want to go really in depth into railway electrics, then I'm talking like electrics, not just electric locomotives, then yeah, go check that out. Anyway, yeah, I had a visit to the Maritime Museum with my friends. The submarine is, you couldn't get into that. I wish I spent more time at the museum. I'll have to go back because I only really got to see the destroyer. That is it sailing yacht Ina? I know it's Ina, but is it referred to as a sailing yacht or a steam yacht? Because it's both. It's got sails, but it also has a steam engine. So. And since my visit, they've announced that they claim to have found the wreck of Endeavour, the original Endeavour. The Maritime Museum has got there it is, speak of the devil, that is a replica, I'm pretty sure that's it, a replica of Endeavour, which was the ship that Captain James Cook used on his infamous voyage to discover Australia. And we won't get further into that, politics-wise, but yeah, so that's a replica of Endeavour. It's really not that big of a boat. You would think that it was a bigger boat, but it's not. But yeah, they claim to have found the wreckage, and there's even politics in that as to how do you identify a ship that was sunk 200 years ago. So now that is the James Craig, it says on the side, doesn't it? I believe the James Craig is the oldest. Okay, I was going to say it's the oldest ship still sailing in Australia. I'm not even sure about that. It's the oldest tall ship. I know that much. Whether it's the oldest sailing yacht, it's old. It's 1880s, but it could be older. Oh yes, the museum. And where are we now? We had gotten on the ferry. Yes, that's the ferry terminal. I think is it Pyrmont Bay? It's hard to remember my locations off the top of my head. And then this is just under the Harbour Bridge, which I think is it Milson's Point? Climbing up the hill or walking. Yeah, it is Milson's Point. I thought so. So Milson's Point Station. And we went out to Blacktown, yes, to get on a V-set back to Central. Yeah. I think it was just something to do. Standard shot of a train, it looks like a H set at King's Cross. Would have come from Kiama. Random street. I would be able to identify that street with a bit of searching, but not tonight. Unless somebody recognises it off the top of their head. Back at Central. And this 31st, so this was the Monday. This is when my friends were leaving. So that's why I ended up at Central again. This time at least. It's quite a contrast between the older and the newer parts of Central. At least they didn't destroy the whole thing like Southern Cross. The departure boards. Just standard Central at night photos. And, you know, parts of it are under construction still. More departure boards. Here I am. I think, yeah, that was my best attempt at fitting all of the departure boards in this section into the one photo. And I think I had to cut off 2 departure boards, which didn't actually have any useful information on them. So, in other words, I got all of them in the one photo. But it was difficult because you had, this. There you go, you can see that's what they had on them, nothing. This, column in the way of my photogenic shot. More central at night, looking pretty empty. I took that shot because, the Sydney Metro under construction. It'll be open in a few years, and I like to have photos where you don't have to, like, you can see on the metadata, right? It tells me, oh yeah, I captured this on the 31st of January 2022 at 9:20 p.m. But if you didn't have that information, you could look at that photo in 50 years' time and know roughly when it was taken. Oh yes, this was my life. Going from Central Platform 1, or close to the 1, 1 to 4 type thing, all the way over to Platform 24 and 25. That's one thing that I disliked about Central, was it literally took me about 5 minutes to walk from one end to the other. Not as bad as my university campus, which takes about 10 to 15 minutes to walk from one end to the other, but still. Central Platform, is that 24 or is that 25? I don't know. It's probably 25? No, it's 24. If they were taking a few seconds apart. Yep, they were. Okay, it was 24. 24. And was that 25? Can we tell? I know it's a train to Kiama, that's all I know. And I got the clock in the shot as well. Let's see. Looks like my camera was at about 10 seconds out from the main clock, which is not too bad. I dare say this was my train that I went and got on, but we'll see. Yeah, it was. I've got a certain fondness for Tangaras. They're a little bit disliked in Sydney and whatnot, but I don't know. I've got a certain fondness for them. Don't know why, just do. This is in King's Cross or nearabouts. Forget the name of the street, but that fountain is well known. And we've ended up at Elizabeth's, St James Station. Yeah. How did I end up at St James? Who knows? I just did. And a service to Leppington with B3. Set B3. Okay, new day. Let's read some comments. Stephen is back. And he says, HMS Endeavour looks great even in replica form. And yeah, interesting news about the real Endeavour. Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate question, is how can you tell? The museum just says, we're confident because we are. It's like, well, thanks. But they haven't released anything to, like, if it was a court case and you had to decide beyond reasonable doubt whether or not it was Endeavour, they haven't provided a lot of compelling evidence, put it that way. Stephen says, keep in mind, Southern Cross, aka Spencer Street, was already completely demolished and replaced in the 60s before being completely demolished and turned into Southern Cross. Yes, you're right. Still, I think we can all agree that they could have done a much better job with Southern Cross, even from the 60s version. And Albert says, and that was the second Milsons Point station. The first Milsons Point station was located behind Luna Park on what is now the Lavender Bay car sightings. Interesting. There are two unused platforms at Central, platforms 26 and 27, that are not normally accessible to the public. Yes, and there's abandoned platforms at St James Museum, Wynyard as well, I think so. Although I think 26 and 27 at Central, are they being used for the Metro, the Sydney Metro in some capacity? I think they are. Oh. And the camera died. I will swap out the battery in a sec. Matt says, Orcision models make great Tangara models. I'm sure they do. Okay, Albert says no to 26 and 27 being used. There is definitely some Sydney Metro thing that involves some disused platforms at some station. I know that was extremely vague, but okay, they're used for document storage. Interesting. Stephen says, from the news report I saw, the museum claimed it was possibly Endeavour due to the drawings of the bow hole or something being the same design. Yeah, I saw the same news report. I still don't really see how you could, because you see pictures of the actual wreck and it's like, okay, how did you determine that those were the measurements? Yes, I'm aware the camera died. Let's swap out the battery. And if this one dies, that's it for the night. No more camera. Oh well. Oh, I'm going to have to take it off the thing. It's annoying. Right. What's that looking like? pretty good. All right. Continuing on. You got some trams in the background there, and it looks like I'm on a moving train. Oh, I was attempting to photograph the track recording vehicle, whatever it's called. That's probably the best shot I got of it, which is not a very good shot, but whatever. MT something or other. Someone tell me. Oh, I feel sorry for that woman. I got that's a terrible photo of her eating some noodles. She looks terrible in that photo, wow. And the black caviar, I think that's what it's called. Loco, again, terrible shot. But yeah, I was just passing. When you're not expecting things and you've got to quickly power on the camera and get photos quickly. Yeah. Leppington, I was just going, it was ticking Leppington off as another train line that I've been to the end of. Leppington Station is, I guess like all modern station builds, it feels a bit empty. Oh yeah, there we go. Photographing the airport stations from the train, but I wasn't going to get off at the airport because A, I didn't have a plane to catch. B, it will charge you like $20 or something to get off the train at the airport. So, wow, isn't that the best photo I've ever taken? Museum. I wasn't concentrating on photographing individual stations. I mean, I did if I was there, but that wasn't my goal. My goal wasn't to visit as many stations as possible. It was to cover as much track as possible within the confines of my other things that I wanted to do. Circular Quay is the terminus of the L2 and L3 light rail. So there it is. And you can see there's no pantograph. Well, sorry, there is a pantograph there, obviously, but it's not raised because there's no overhead wire because it's all third rail down here. Harbour Bridge, ferries. I think I was actually catching a ferry. No, that was another day. I think I was just riding the light rail end to end, the L2 at least. Yeah, that's looks like what I was doing. And this would be the other end of the light rail. Can I remember off the top of my head where it goes to? It goes to Randwick, I'm pretty sure. So I assume that's the Randwick terminus. There you go. We're back at Central. Bit of trams in the wet. My friend Joel he always loves photos of stuff in the wet. He came to Sydney with me, although he was not around. He'd gone home by this time. And there's the fountain, same fountain, but in the daylight. Ooh, they are the Butler's Stairs, I think. Well, that's Butler's Stairs. I think that's just some random other stairs. Because I think you go up those stairs and then you turn right and then left, and that gets you to these, which is the Butler's Stairs. Why do these exist? Good question. I did read up on it and now I've forgotten. It was named after somebody Butler. Bondi Junction. Ticking off another line. And H set to Kiama via Walleye Creek. Looks like I might have jumped on that H set. Gone past Waterfall. That's blurry, half blurry photos, but coal train in a colliery siding near Otford. Rod Smith, if you're in the chat tonight, I think you were asking me whether the colliery branch at Otford was still operating. Was I photographing one near? It's 6004, something like that. Okay, that's something different. I think I might have videoed something at the near Helensburgh. Anyway, going over a bridge and whoa, looks like some weather is out there. And hey, looks like there's another coal train. Was it coal? Looks like coal. What's the time? Coming up to 10. Where are we? I forget the name of that place. Other people will know. And here we are at Kiama and the connecting Bomaderry Endeavour. Different Endeavour again, this one. Not the Captain Cook ship, but the rail cars. I think this day I was just going to Kiama. And a few shots at Kiama. Pretty station. Pretty area to begin with. And yeah, I went to the surf beach and got very carried away photographing the surfers and the waves crashing on the rocks. I'll be going relatively fast through these because a lot of them are the same sort of thing, and I'm just trying to get the best version of it. Like, that's not too bad. And I got so carried away that I missed my train home. I'd planned to take, I think it was the 5:58 or 17:58 train, and you can see it's 5:46 p.m. and I'm still like, they're good photos. They're cool photos of the water splashing, but I missed that train, and the next one was in another hour, I think. And it wasn't, the 58 was the last through train. And yeah, the next one was it only went to Thirroul, I think, and then you had to change at Thirroul. Yeah, so at about this time, 56, I realised, oh, when's my train due? Oops, it's in 2 minutes. And, well, less than like a minute and a bit. And I'm quite far from the station. So I ran back to the station but missed it, so, oh well. Came back 6:53, and it's a new day. Let's look at some comments. Oh. Oh, damn. I didn't realise that the camera was... I should have known, but I just get too focused on the photos. I mean, that is what is important, not my face, but yeah, the pop-up. Funny story with those batteries. I said they were cheap, right? They were touted as genuine Sony batteries. And they came in what looked like genuine Sony packaging. I compared them physically to the battery which came with my camera, which of course I know is a genuine Sony. Yeah, I couldn't notice any differences in packaging or any sort of physical thing about the battery, but then it comes up with those messages saying that they're not genuine, basically. So, I mean, they were cheap for a reason. Who knows what they were? I bought a couple of chargers. I bought 2 chargers from the same seller, and one of them didn't really work, and the other one worked but then started smoking. So, safe to say I got my refund on that one. The seller didn't respond. I just had to, what do you call it? I had to contact PayPal and get it sorted. But it did. Did I go to the blowhole while I was in Kiama? No, I didn't. I probably should have, but I don't know what I did in the extra hour that I found myself having at Kiama, but I should go back and go to the blowhole, because, everyone talks about the blowhole when you go to Kiama. Um, Stephen was talking about easy to tell which loco black caviar is. Yep. And Matt says there are stations on the Newcastle to Dungong line where they are in the middle of nowhere, such as Wirragullah. It's like 2 metres or so long. Yes. Yeah, as I said, I wasn't focused on stations. That's the sort of thing that I would push to a future trip. And Matthew James says the virtual tour you can do on the unused tunnels and platforms at St James is excellent. Available on the Transport New South Wales website. Being in person would be awesome. Oh yeah. Okay. Look, it's 10:05 p.m. How many photos have we got to go? A fair amount. Should we stop here and go for part 3 in 2 weeks' time? Because I've got, like, coming up, I've got ferry photos, I've got Newcastle trams, I've got Parramatta trams under construction. I've got Newcastle photos, I've got Maitland photos, more St James stuff, and I've got some Tramway Museum, lots of Tramway Museum photos, so there's still a fair bit to go. Good stopping point for part 2, says Albert. Well, it would be a part 3. Well, no, sorry, yes, you're quite right. Stopping point for part 2 so that we can do part 3 in 2 weeks' time. And we can remember that we're here at these stairs, which I forget what these stairs are called. These aren't the Butler stairs, these are somewhere else. And I could go to maps, but you know what happened last time. Anyone else for stopping here or keeping going? Any other opinions? Oh, someone says. Matt asks, did I visit the New South Wales Rail Museum in Thirlmere? No, I did not. It was on my list, but I was more focused on track coverage than anything else. And I knew that the Thirlmere Museum is going to be around for a while, so no, I did not do that. I did the Sydney Tramway Museum because that gets me extra track coverage. Of course, the Tram Museum runs along the old Royal National Park line. Well, if no one else is saying anything about stopping or keeping going, I will stop, because the one person who has voiced an opinion says stop. But nobody else seems to want to say anything tonight. Come on, someone else say something either way. If I can get 2 people to say stop, then that will be a good thing. When I get to the Newcastle trams, like here, I will be talking about their funky system and supercapacitors and the difference between a supercapacitor and a battery. Okay, 2 people saying do whatever, so I think I will. Keep it to we say that they're an hour. We say that live streams are meant to go for an hour, but then they end up getting extended and whatnot. Okay. Go for part 3. Someone else has corroborated. Yes. Decided. Okay. I think I need some sleep as well. All right, well, thanks for watching. I will be back in phase from now on. So if anyone like Albert I know who has set up calendar reminders, and myself, I've got calendar reminders to say Floyd is live streaming this Friday and not this other Friday. So everything's back in sync now. You don't need to change anything. Final words. Nobody said anything, so Albert says they're all asleep. That means stop. Lol. Yep. All right. Thanks for watching. See you in 2 weeks for part 3. Bye-bye.